Rain came down like tears that night, cold, endless, and merciless. On the side of a lonely highway, a young woman stood beneath the flickering sign of a closed diner, clutching her swollen belly. Her clothes were soaked through, her lips pale, and every step she took sent a sharp ache through her body. She wasn't just hungry, she was desperate. And the world had turned its back on her. That's where her story should have ended. But fate had other plans. Because sometimes, salvation comes roaring on two wheels, with a man who looked like trouble but carried a heart made for saving the broken. Her name was Emily. 23, soft-spoken, with eyes that used to hold dreams of a small home, a garden, and laughter. But that was before the man she loved vanished the moment she told him she was pregnant. Before she lost her job when her belly began to show. Before the shelter said they were full, and the church told her to come back in the morning. Now, she was down to her last coin and last ounce of hope. She'd been walking for hours, rain soaking her hair flat, the baby inside her kicking as if reminding her, "You can't give up yet, Mama." She stopped near a gas station, weak and dizzy. Through the fog, she saw headlights bright, blinding, and loud. A Harley slowed to a stop in front of her, chrome glinting under the streetlight. The man who took off his helmet looked like something out of a warning sign, broad shoulders, tattoos creeping up his neck, and eyes dark as the road behind him. "You look like you've seen hell," he said, his voice gravelly but not unkind. Emily stepped back. "I'm fine." "You're shaking," he replied. "You're not fine." He looked at her belly, then at the rain. Something shifted in his expression. He didn't ask questions. Instead, he shrugged off his leather jacket and held it out. "Put it on before you freeze." She hesitated, but the cold made the choice for her. The jacket was heavy and smelled faintly of smoke and motor oil, but it was warm, so warm it almost made her cry. "Name's Ryder," he said. "And you?" "Emily." "All right, Emily. Where you headed?" She gave a small, helpless laugh. "Anywhere that'll let me in." He stared at her for a long moment, jaw tightening. Then he nodded toward his bike. "Hop on. I know a place." Every instinct told her not to trust a man like him. But what choice did she have? She climbed onto the back, holding on tight as the engine roared to life. The wind stung her face as they rode through the rain. But for the first time in days, Emily felt something close to safety. The small wooden cabin they arrived at was rough but warm, tucked deep in the woods behind the biker bar. Ryder ran with his club. He led her inside, lit a fire, and handed her a blanket. "You can rest here tonight," he said, pouring her a mug of something hot. "You don't owe me a thing." Emily stared at the fire, too tired to speak. When she finally whispered, "Why are you helping me?" he just shrugged. "Because once, someone helped me when I didn't deserve it." That night, she fell asleep on the couch, her belly rising and falling with each breath, while Ryder sat in the next room, listening to the rain and wondering why he suddenly cared so damn much about a stranger. Days turned into weeks. Emily helped around the bar, cleaning, cooking, doing what she could. The other bikers eyed her warily at first, until they saw Ryder's protective gaze every time someone said the wrong thing, and slowly, something beautiful began to grow between the two of them. Not love at first sight, something deeper, steadier. A quiet bond built on kindness and survival. Ryder started fixing up an old nursery in the back room. He said it was for one of the guy's nieces, but Emily saw through the lie. He was building it for her, but peace never lasts long. One evening, the man who had abandoned her showed up, slick hair, smooth lies, and a cruel smirk. He wanted money, not her. He'd heard she was staying with a biker and figured he could squeeze her for what she was worth. When Ryder saw him grab her arm, something in him snapped. He dragged the man outside, fists flying, rage pouring out of years he'd kept buried. It wasn't about Emily's ex, it was about every helpless person he'd watched get hurt. Every time he'd failed to stop it. When it was over, he stood in the rain again, breathing hard. Emily ran to him, her voice trembling. "You didn't have to fight for me." He looked at her, rain dripping from his hair. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I did." 2 weeks later, the baby came. The whole club scrambled like a panicked family, Ryder barking orders, big men running for hot water and towels. Emily's cries filled the cabin, then faded into the softest sound in the world, a newborn's first breath. Ryder held the tiny bundle in his arms, his rough hands shaking. "Hey there, little one," he whispered. "You made it." Emily watched him, tears spilling freely. "You didn't have to do any of this." He looked up, eyes soft for the first time she'd ever seen. "Nobody did. But that's why I wanted to." Months later, the diner where she once stood in the rain reopened. Every Sunday, she went there with Ryder and the baby. People who had turned her away now smiled politely, pretending not to remember. She didn't hold it against them, because she'd learned something powerful. Sometimes family isn't the one you're born with, but the one that finds you when the world walks away. Ryder still wore his leather and still rode his bike, but now there was a small car seat strapped behind him for the days they rode together, three souls bound by chance and compassion. And whenever anyone asked how they met, Emily would smile and say, "I was starving and alone, and an angel on a Harley showed up." And Ryder, with his crooked grin, would add, "Guess hell ain't such a bad place when you find heaven in it." The sound of a baby's laughter filled the cabin, a soft, gurgling melody that made even the toughest biker smile. Little Grace was 3 months old now, a tiny miracle wrapped in a pink blanket. Emily sat by the window feeding her, sunlight spilling across the wooden floorboards. Outside, Ryder was fixing his bike, the rumble of metal and the hum of the radio blending into the easy rhythm of a life they never saw coming. For the first time in forever, Emily felt something close to peace. It wasn't the life she had imagined, but maybe it was better. She still woke sometimes in the middle of the night, afraid it would all vanish, that she'd wake up back in the rain, cold and alone. But every morning when she saw Ryder asleep on the couch with his boots still on and a baby bottle balanced on the table beside him, she knew this was real. But peace, as she was learning, has its price. Ryder's past didn't stay quiet for long. The Hells Angels weren't saints, they were a brotherhood that lived by loyalty and bled for it. And lately, that loyalty was being tested.